I didn't learn the secret all at once. It arrived in fragments, incomplete sentences, looks that lingered too long before breaking away. That's how it started, not with a confession, but with an atmosphere. A tension that hadn't existed before, or perhaps had always existed and finally found a shape. Families are good at holding things together through silence. We mistake that silence for stability. For years, I believed our structure was solid because it didn't crack under pressure. I didn't understand that pressure had simply been redirected inward. The first sign came during a conversation that wasn't supposed to matter. Someone mentioned a date that didn't align with my memory. It was said casually, almost accidentally. I corrected it without thinking. The room changed. Not dramatically, no gasps, no confrontation, just a shift. A pause that lasted half a second too long, long enough to be noticed, short enough to be denied. Mini hooks like that appeared everywhere once I knew how to see them. A story that stopped before the ending. A relative who avoided eye contact when certain names came up. A sudden change of subject that felt rehearsed. I told myself I was imagining things, that I was sensitive. Families don't hide things that big, I thought. Not for decades. I had no reason to distrust the version of reality I'd been given. It had worked. It had produced birthdays, routines, shared history. It had given me a sense of origin. Questioning it felt disloyal, even indulgent. So I did what I had always done. I adjusted my perception instead of my curiosity, but something had shifted inside me. I noticed I was paying closer attention, listening for what wasn't said, watching reactions instead of words. The trust I had taken for granted began to feel conditional, though no one had changed their behavior openly. That uncertainty was more destabilizing than anger would have been. The truth didn't emerge because someone decided to be honest. It surfaced because maintaining the lie had become inefficient. Circumstances change, people age. Stories require maintenance, and eventually, someone forgets which version they're supposed to tell. When I finally heard the secret, it wasn't framed as revelation. It was framed as explanation, as if the knowledge were necessary for me to understand a reaction, a decision, a past conflict that never quite made sense. The delivery was calm, almost practical. I remember nodding while my mind lagged behind. I understood the words individually. Together, they dismantled something fundamental. Not the family, but my relationship to it. The secret itself wasn't explosive because of what it revealed. It was explosive because of what it invalidated. Memories shifted, motives rearranged themselves. Moments I had once interpreted as care suddenly looked like management. Protection rebranded itself as control. Mini hooks turned inward. I questioned my emotional responses to past events. Had my instincts been right all along? Had my confusion been evidence, not a maturity? That realization was unsettling because it restored something I had been taught to doubt, my perception. No one apologized. That part surprised me at first. The revelation wasn't treated as harm, but as necessity, as if withholding truth had been an act of responsibility. I noticed how carefully the narrative framed the decision to lie, always for the greater good, always to protect someone else. I felt something fracture quietly. Not rage, not betrayal. Orientation. The internal map I had used to understand my family no longer matched the terrain. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't demand explanations. I withdrew into observation. I watched how the secret was discussed, who minimized it, who justified it, who avoided it entirely. I noticed how quickly the conversation shifted toward forgiveness without acknowledging damage. That pattern felt familiar. Somewhere in the middle of this processing, I encountered reflections, not accusations, not instructions, about family secrets and psychological inheritance, about how lies told for protection often serve structure more than people, about how truth withheld doesn't disappear. It embeds itself in behavior, tone, distance. These ideas didn't dramatize my experience. They contextualized it. I realized the secret had shaped more than events. It had shaped roles. It explained why certain boundaries were never crossed, why some questions were discouraged, why emotional closeness had always felt regulated. The family hadn't just been hiding information. It had been organizing itself around absence. Many hooks resurfaced in my body, a tightness when old stories were repeated, a resistance to participating in nostalgia, a sense of standing slightly outside scenes I used to inhabit fully. I wasn't angry. I was reorienting. The destabilizing part wasn't knowing the truth. It was realizing how long I had lived inside a narrative designed without my consent. That recognition didn't make me feel deceived. It made me feel edited. In the final quarter of this story, the psychological twist revealed itself slowly but unmistakably. The secret didn't weaken the family because it was hidden. It weakened it because it required everyone to behave unnaturally to maintain it. The structure hadn't been strong. It had been rigid, and rigidity is fragile. What truly shifted was my understanding of power. The people who held the secret had seemed authoritative, grounded, certain. Now I saw that certainty had been maintained through omission. Their control depended on my not knowing. Once I did, something unexpected happened. The secret lost its weight. Not emotionally, it still mattered, but structurally. It could no longer dictate my interpretation of the past. It couldn't organize my loyalty. It became information, not gravity. That was the devastating clarity. The family's cohesion hadn't been built on truth. It had been built on compliance. And compliance dissolves the moment awareness replaces assumption. I didn't distance myself dramatically. I didn't confront the lie publicly. I simply stopped adjusting my reality to fit theirs. I allowed my understanding to exist without negotiation. Looking back, the entire story reframes itself.